Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of One on One. I'm Michael Young. Thanks for joining us. With me today in studio is the AFC Regional Councillor, Mr. Hasif Youssef. Thank you very much, Mr. Youssef, for joining me. When I asked you to do this interview with me, you readily agreed. For all of our viewers who are going to be obviously joining us for the first time, this interview is the second part of two interviews that I have done. The first one would have been conducted in Georgetown with the Region 6 Member of Parliament, Mr. Verisami Remaya, where we discussed several issues related to the party and stemming from a letter, of course, that was written by and penned by Mr. Youssef, pointing out some concerns with respect to what had happened in Berbice as it relates to elections and the entire process, campaigning, funds, and it also discussed several things related to the Alliance for Change and its management and position on several issues. Now, Mr. Youssef, thanks once more for joining me on this show. I understand that there is still somewhat of a feud boiling or brewing between you and the AFC MP. First of all, give us the genesis of how this entire problem came about within the Alliance for Change with respect to the campaign funds and some of the issues that you raised in your letter penned to the Ghana Chronicle.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm thankful for the opportunity you're giving me.
You're welcome.
So that the general public, more specifically the members of the Alliance for Change and the supporters, could hear on a personal basis what has transpired. Many of them, 51 of them who were at the meeting on February the 1st, would have had a first-hand experience with what transpired. But I want to give an introduction to this so-called feud. I have no feud against Mr. Ramaya. I have a feud against corruption. I have a feud against the very principles which prompted me to become a member of the Alliance for Change. And because of those founding principles and those principles which attracted me, I find it that it is my duty, my sacred duty, to speak out against corruption within the AFC. Mr. Ramaya...
Just to interrupt you at that exact point, so we are making an admission here that there are certain things that are not right within the party, the Alliance for Change.
Yes, of course.
Corruption within the party.
Right, in Berbice here.
Okay, in the Berbice.
What I know about.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Ramaya is claiming that whatever I have is a personal issue against him. But I want the supporters and members to recall that when I was cheering the rally at WIM, at Adelphi, at Trainline, and other places and other public meetings, I made glowing tributes to Mr. Ramaya. Never have I tried to degrade him in any way. I expounded and emphasized that this man was doing great for Berbice. I said so. But I said in my letter also that that image of a champion for transparency, accountability, and against corruption, right, quickly disintegrated on February 1st when a meeting was called and Mr. Ramaya claimed that he overspent money, $4.5 million.
So the problem started with the February 1 meeting when the claim came to the Alliance for Change and its members at the WIM group. I would want
That's
to believe
right, yes.
that Mr. Ramaya, the Honorable Member of Parliament, would have spent in excess of $4.5 million,
yeah.
apart from the monies that he would have been allocated for the 2011 November elections.
That's right, yeah.
All right, continue.
Yes, and what was upsetting to me, that being a chartered accountant, I looked at the financial statements he prepared, and I saw that they were grossly lacking in a paper trail, or what we call source documents, to support the spending. In fact, in 1 month, in November, he claimed that he spent $900,000 on food. Another month, the month before, he claimed $700,000 on food. I was shocked, and I asked him when he showed me this statement that where are the supporting documents? He said he doesn't have it, but I say you should have them. If you're going to make a legitimate claim that you spend these monies, then you should have documentation to support these expenses. He could not have done that. He made the same simple remark he made to Guyana Times that people don't give bills and receipts for chicken, fish, and celery in the market. And I totally agree with that. But when you're spending $900,000, right, people money, right, campaign money, then you got to account for that.
But are you aggrieved that even after this entire incident with respect to the monies, all right, it's brought to the party? In my interview with Mr. Ramaya, he said that after the matter was brought to the fore with respect to the amount of monies that he spent, there was no dispute within the party from the executive level that he did indeed spend these monies, but the problem was that he did not necessarily have the, as you said, had the receipts. But the party has made a commitment, according to Mr. Ramaya, Dr. Ramaya, to have him reimburse this money. Now, given the fact that that is put aside, what is your concern with respect to the entire, should the party, should the Alliance for Change, and should the people of Berbice refund Ramaya the $4.5 million that he said he allegedly spent without the requisite receipts?
Okay, 2 points we have to note here. First of all, he was not authorized by the party, the executive of the party. This is what I know. He was not authorized to spend in excess of donations and what was given to him. He had to work within a budget. I mean, we're talking about budget cuts here. Good? And if you know you have X amount of money, then you should work within that budget. Right?
Yes.
So the second point is that if the AFC is saying now that they are going to reimburse him, I'm totally against that.
Why?
Because you have $4.5 million and there are lots of question marks behind that. How was the money spent? Are we going to take his word now that these monies were actually spent for so-and-so? Or are we going to say that, look, we need to have evidences, we need to have source documents? Good?
Now, if the Alliance for Change does decide to embrace the position that Dr. Ramaya did indeed spend this money, as a matter of fact, in one of my interviews with Mr. Ranjatan, held in Georgetown over the telephone, he said to me that there was no, the party knew that Ramaya had spent lots of money, Kathy Hughes had spent lots of money, Ramjatan himself had spent lots of money, and he had asked, why don't we ask Yusuf, how much monies did he spend? Are you at all upset with respect to that statement coming from the chairman, no less of a person than the chairman of the Alliance?
Well, you see, this is where Mr. Ramjatan should have been more circumspect in how he is making his comments.
Okay.
Because now you're sending a message to the membership that the strength of your membership, a person's membership, is actually based on how much he's contributing to the party. Good? And another point should be noted here is that I am not the one that claimed that I spent X amount of money, right? So why ask me how much money I have spent? I have not made any claim to date to the Alliance for Change, to my party, that look, I have spent X amount of money. So that question does not arise, right? And Mr. Ramjatan is just ignoring the question. As a legal counsel, he should know better than to do that. You can't avoid a question. You got to address issues.
So now, minus the monies, you also raised in your letter to the Ghana Chronicle and in your subsequent follow-up after the interviews I did with Mr. Ramaya, you also said that you were upset that there were rigged elections within the Alliance for Change, or elections that were not properly constituted and so were null and void, but yet still there's a regional management committee set up and functioning for the Alliance for Change in Region 6.
Yes. Let me give you a brief thing. I said it in my letter, but for the viewing public, I want to just give you a brief synopsis here. On February the 1st, Mr. Ramaya called a meeting and he summoned some members to go there I also did the same. I called on some members to attend the meeting. That the meeting was to elect a regional management committee. Uh, at the meeting, Mr. Ramaya made some introduction whereby he put it out to the membership present that he had spent $4.5 million and he should get this back. It's only right that he should get back his money. And the question about getting back the money is from donations, right? Fundraising activities. The membership present there did not agree to that.
Did not agree to what? Did not agree to utilizing the party funds
Right.
raised through donations and stuff to reimburse Ramaya
Right.
at the level of Berbice?
Right, yes.
They did not agree.
They did not agree. What they agreed on was that groups will be set up, and through fundraising efforts, these groups would take whatever is necessary for them to survive, and the extra money should be put into an AFC bank account and not handed over to Ramaya.
Okay.
Good. Subsequently, when I was elected, right, unanimously by all 51 members, Lionel Howell was elected as a vice chairman, Donna Matu as a secretary, and some other treasurer and office bearers, committee members, and so on. And everything went on.
Then what was wrong after that election? Take us through the process.
Okay.
After the election, you were elected. Donna was there and several other persons. How did these fresh elections came about?
Okay. Well, when the membership refused, and I put it over to them about the $4.5 million, right? He was upset. I saw that he was visibly upset, and then he wanted us, the AFC in Berbice, to appoint a female in a position to oversee, in fact, to be in charge of the WIM office, the office that we were trying to set up. And I said at that same very meeting on February 1st that should not be, that we should invite applicants and we should shortlist them and select the best applicant for the job, that we should not be doing this, right? And I saw that he was mad.
And then I think subsequently in your letter after that, you made the point that immediately after you were not informed of meetings that were being held to elect a new regional management
Yes,
committee, Nervous
yes.
Donna, you were told to hand over monies, and let's say the election happened.
Yes.
It happened in a manner that was not fair, that was not consistent with the best practice that speak about accountability and transparency, gathering from what you've said in
Yes,
the letter.
yes.
Now I want to ask you this. Given the fact that the Alliance for Change has always been one of the parties in our country that has championed the cause for transparency and accountability, and now the party, would you say the party is now backpedaling with respect to how it's, the image it's painting to the public with respect to these issues? It said that you have to practice at home what you preach in public.
That's right. I'm totally against what happened, because another election was held subsequently, and it was I would say fraudulent and rigged, because only a handful of selected members were asked to be there. I, as let's say the outgoing chairman, should have been summoned to that meeting. Donna, as the outgoing secretary, let's say the first election was null and void due to some constitutional problems. Now you're holding another election. Why not summon myself and Donna to be at that meeting? Not necessarily that we're going to seek a nomination, but at least in principle, we should have been there.
But it does not wreak corruption, and does that not say that while persons are criticizing government of the day for the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, it means that the Alliance for Change, even if we use this Berbice scenario alone, is not practicing high levels of transparency and accountability.
Exactly, because that by itself is cronyism, right? And you remember when Donald Ramotar was nominated as a presidential candidate, there was a big thing about that, good? About transparency, and it's not right, and and all sorts of criticism. And now in Berbice here, you have the same people, right, selecting a female for that position, whom I feel to myself is affiliated in some way to this gentleman, because he wanted on February 1st to elect this person to hold that position, and then subsequently, right, when he held the other election without us knowing, he elected the same person to head the office. Today that same person is heading the office.
But do you see this as some sort of betrayal now? Getting to the meat of the matter, minus the things that you have said in your letter, which has been publicly ventilated, do you believe that the MP, in principle, has betrayed the people who has entrusted him with their confidence to represent them in Parliament, to speak on issues of transparency and issues of accountability? Is that betrayal? And you have to be honest.
Yes,
Is it
that,
betrayal?
that is betrayal, because you can be championing transparency, accountability, and against corruption, and you're doing the same thing. Right? That is hypocritical to the extreme. I find that very, very disappointing, disgusting, unprincipled, right? You name it, all the negative words. Because as a member of parliament, right, he should understand that he's holding a very high office in this country, and people, they have certain amount of trust and confidence in him, and he has betrayed that. Not only me, right, he has betrayed everyone in Berbice, because he's an MP of Berbice, good? Not an MP as per se of the AFC alone, right? He's representing the region, good? And you are that figure, right? And you should condone to certain principles and adhere to certain principles, because you are no longer a AFC MP alone, right?
Are you dissatisfied with the manner in which the national executive of the Alliance for Change is dealing with the issue? And do you find it disrespectful that even after penning 2 letters, sending several emails to no less a person than Mr. Ramchatan, who was running to become president just last year, and you've gotten a sort of lukewarm response or no response at all with respect to these very important allegations that you're making with respect to corruption within the AFC, cronyism within the AFC, and the lack of transparency?
Okay, let me just read a part of my email to him on April 19th. Ramai is not only unaccountable for party funds, but now he is alienating hardworking members like myself and Donna. The very thing the AFC is against. I will not stand by idly and allow Ramai to get away with the very thing that caused me to join the AFC in 2005. If I have to go to the media, I will be most willing to take that course. I will not allow corruption to become cancerous in the AFC. Myself and my family have suffered a lot since we joined the AFC, and will not allow this person to add salt to our wounds. I do hope to hear from you as soon as possible before I take this to the next level.
Has the Honourable Member of Parliament and Chairman of the Alliance for Change, Mr. Ramchatan, responded to your email?
No.
And has he called you?
No.
Has he called you since the first letter?
No.
Has he called you since the first news report?
No.
Has he called you since the second news report was published
No.
with Mr. Ramaya?
To date, no. No communication.
What do you read into that? Is that a clear signal to you that what you're raising is not important? We have other issues to deal with that are more important? Or does it say to you that the people at Berbice and whatever problems they're experiencing is not important until another election?
Well, it seems so, because if you cannot handle an issue like this, and another issue, another time, I emailed him, you know, and the thing is, he has no principle.
Who has no principle?
The AFC leader, Mr. Ranchatan.
Chairman.
Listen to this April 23rd email to him, right? April 23rd. Dear Mr. Ramchatan, Dana and I could empathize with you on your feeling of betrayal by APNU. We felt the same way when we were deliberately omitted from the invitation list to Ramaya's election meeting. Can you imagine that there were not enough members to form a committee for the RMC, but the election went ahead? As a party leader, as a party's leader, your silence is deafening on this matter. Where is the transparency and accountability in Barbados? We owe the PPP and the PNC an apology.
But what would you say in principle that you owe the PPP and the PNC an apology for?
Because we have been lambasting them all along for transparency and accountability and corruption.
And now that is evident within
That's right. I came with a clean heart. I said that this is it. This is the real deal. Right? AFC is what this country needs. Now it's dawning to me, not dawn, it's already, the sun is way up, right? And I'm seeing that there is no transparency and accountability and lots of corruption.
But minus that fact now, the ruling party had said that persons in Berbice were fooled or duped into voting for the AFC. Then came you, then came Ramaya, then came several other persons who said, place your confidence in the Alliance for Change. They're different. This will not happen. The very same things that some of the other persons in the other side of the benches in the opposition has accused the government for and the PPP are the very same things that you're saying during our interview now that the Alliance for Change is guilty of at this point in time. What I want to get from you now, if this matter is not resolved amicably, because obviously since April 19th when you penned your first letter,
That's right.
now in May, if it's not resolved, what will be the next best step for you and all of the other aggrieved members of the Alliance for Change that feels both betrayed by Ramaya and betrayed by the party in proper?
Well, to be honest, right, at this point in time, I'm so upset about what's happening and that the party leadership has not seen it fit to communicate to me. And in fact, aspersions are being cast that I sold out to the PPP and all of that.
But did you have, that's a good point. Before you even continue, did you have any meetings with the People's Progressive Party Civic? Did you have any secret deals with them that you were going to expose or what was happening in the Alliance for Change for some financial reward? Did the party, and be very honest because this is a one-on-one interview, and I'm going to ask all of the questions that the public want to know, did the PPP make any offer to Yusuf saying, do this and you will get this?
Never. I have never even spoken to anyone about what I was going to do. I did not even tell Donna nor Mike Hinson what I was about. In fact, the only person that knew what I was going to do is my immediate family, because I discussed everything with them, with my wife, with my children, and we are going to go through things, and they are going to advise me what to do. And they told me that what I'm doing is right, but I may be crucified. But I'm willing to take that chance, because it seems like crucifixion is not a bad idea at all, right? Because I'll tell you something, not one person in the PPP have I approached to discuss anything, and now I am hearing at a meeting at Train Line, same Mr. Ramai saying that a person is attacking him because the person sold out to the PPP. I think that is ridiculous to the highest extent.
Do you believe that there are other persons in Berbice that feel the same way that you feel now with respect to Mr. Ramaya and how he's dealt with the issue of party funds proper, then the elections after, and now there's the deafening silence from the Alliance for Change? Do you regret your decision, or not regret, or are you having second thoughts now about your decision that you made in 2005 to join this party that seemed to have the perfect picture up, the perfect portrait that would say we're ready to take Guyana forward?
Well, definitely that image I had has been shattered. Because if the leadership in this party cannot address something like this, right, and allow this cronyism and intransparency and unaccountability to take place, then what am I doing? Right? What am I saying? Right? My family, right, and my friends, I discuss things with them. And I will tell you something, members, there are other members within the AFC, councillors as well who are afraid. I don't know for what. Losing what, I don't know. Right? They're afraid for the names to be called. Only this morning, I spoke with a councillor at at the Portman Market, and he told me that I'm in the process of being expelled from the party.
He told you that you were in the process?
Yes. Imagine a councillor telling me at the Portman Market this morning that I'm in the process of being expelled.
Are you afraid of expulsion?
No, 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 no. I am not afraid of expulsion, right? Not at all.
Would you be surprised if after you would have gone public with both this interview that we're doing here for the purposes of broadcast, and secondly, all of your statements made after that you were removed from your position as regional councillor for the Alliance for Change, and steps are made to either marginalize you because you've spoken outwardly about corruption that has taken place inside the party? Would you be surprised if something like that happens?
No, not at all. But as per my marginalization, they don't have the power to do that. I'm a very contented individual, right? I'm satisfied with my station in life, right? I have no ambition for big positions, right? I'm very much satisfied.
Mr. Ramaya, and I must do some, give credence to obviously what he said with me during the interview, because I've both interviewed you as an AFC councillor, and I've also interviewed Mr. Ramaya as a member of parliament, and I've also interviewed Mr. Ramjatan. So I have gone through the entire pillar to get to the bottom of the issue. He said that you were bitter and power drunk. He also said that if he had his way, you would not have been an AFC councillor. Now, would you respond to that, given the fact that you only said a few minutes ago that people were now seeking to tint your character in Berbice?
Yes, definitely, because before, in fact, on February the 1st, when that first election, what they claimed to be unconstitutional, when that election was held, Ramaya was a person who encouraged other persons to nominate me as the chairman for the RMC. And minutes later, he regretted that. Right? And that's where his bitterness started, not mine. Right? I'm bitter with issues, not personality. I'm too big for that.
Do you believe that the people at Berbice now need to open their eyes wider, given the fact that lots of parliamentarians will come to them, say one thing at the train lines or on the streets, go to parliament and say another set of things, and then go on television and say a completely different set of things? This is not with respect to Mr. Ramaya in particular or at all. This is just generally. Should the people of Berbice really now wake up and recognize, who are really championing the
Well, you see, the thing is that some people feel that Barbicians are gullible. They're uneducated. They're farmers, they're cane cutters, and they could come here and do what they want. That is not so anymore, right? And that's the reason why I have stood up to take this position. Because I, as an educator, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Right? Barbicians need to be educated that don't trust all that comes and they're glittering in gold and lofty promises. Right? Know the reality. Right? Because only when you know the reality, you're going to know what's coming next.
While you may have made that statement, why should we trust you? And why should the people of Berbice have confidence in terms of what you are saying now with respect to the Alliance for Change and the corruption that you have seen taking place within the party?
Good.
Why should they trust Yusuf
Good.
as opposed to Ramaya?
They have seen me on the campaign trail. They know what I stood for. Good. And they knew that, this man has nothing personal to gain by doing this here. In fact, I have things to lose, maybe. Right? And the reason why they should trust me is because there are a lot of members out there and supporters who know what's happening in Berbice here. But the thing is, many of them, they felt that, or they're feeling that, we have made a choice and now we don't want to go and admit that we are wrong.
But were they wrong to vote for the Alliance
Right?
for Change?
Well, I'm not going to say that they were wrong. They misjudged. like me, I misjudged. I was not wrong. I misjudged. Right? And sometimes all of us are victims of misjudgment. You understand? So that's my position.
What do you believe will be the way forward now? Now that you've had this, now that you've experienced what people call corruption within a party, which is evident probably in all the parties, but only you've chosen to speak out about it. What will be the way forward, and what will be the resolution that you'd like to see come out of this issue, so that you can stand with some iota of integrity in front of the people, and preach the message and gospel of the Alliance for Change?
Good. One, I I don't want any cover up in this matter because Barbicians, I've said before, we are not fools. Good? And we expect that when something is wrong, it should be addressed, whether it's happening within us or outside. And more so, within ourselves, we should address that. And that's something we should address. So the way forward would be for the AFC leadership to address these issues. Donna Matu and Mike Hinson, they have come out in the Guyana Times today, and they're saying that they're backing me 100%, and everything that I have said are facts. Good? So the thing is, let the people know what is happening, and from now on, they are going to make informed decision, right, about what they are doing, right? I'm not telling them what to do, good? But my point is, now that you know, you make your decision, right? And ensure that corruption is wiped out. So if the AFC wants to go ahead, right, they need to rein in rein him in, right? They need to be very stern with what he has done and been practicing, right? And that's the way forward.
Suppose now finally the party decides to stand by its MP and says that Ramaya has done what he has done. He's not committed any wrongdoings. The man is an honorable man, and they probably vindicate or try to explain what he's done in retrospect, and you become the biggest loser in this entire battle. The fight I believe that you have is one to bring to the public attention what's happening behind closed doors, and so that they will probably know, all is not gold that glitter. All is, all that is gold doesn't necessarily glitter, or the opposite way around, as the saying goes. What do you believe is the next step forward? Will the Alliance for Change lose significant support in Berbice with respect to votes because of how they've dealt with this one matter?
Well, I won't say that this one matter only. There are other matters.
Within the AFC?
There are other matters. No. What I'm saying is that the people will have to look at different things, right, different issues to make their choice, right? But what I do feel is that if nothing is done, it is going to damage the image of the AFC.
Mr. Ramchatan does not believe so. He told me so. He said during the interview he does not believe that this will damage the image of the Alliance for Change.
Well, I think he's sadly mistaken, right? Because, you see, that's the thing. They're taking Barbicians for granted, right? If you have corruption in Barbies, cronyism, right, and all these things going on, and accountability, and you are saying that this will not damage the image of the party, then you're taking Barbicians for granted. And that's one of the things they have been telling Barbicians, that you're being taken for granted by the PPP. Good? And now if you're saying that, then I guess they do have transport for each and every person in Barbies.
Okay. Now, my final question to you, are you prepared to resign your seat as an AFC councillor if this matter, well, obviously before you get expelled, if you are at all going to be expelled, I don't know. I'm just the interviewer here. Are you prepared to resign your post and walk with your integrity intact, or are you prepared to be booted out of a party because of a position that you took, which is similar to the position that Moses Nagamutu said he took within the PPP, and that Kemraj Ramjatan said that he took within the PPP, and a position that Besasar, I think he said, Rajendra, he said he took, that they were opposed to all of these wrongdoings, and so they left as honorable men of the cloth, at least in two instances. Are you prepared to do that?
Of course, if this matter is not resolved, and which I hope it would be, right, but then maybe it's hopeless hope. But if it comes to that, I have no qualms whatever in resigning, right, honorably, and put my head up and just walk through the door.
What is the most hurtful part of this for you as we close off our interview? What is the most hurtful part for you and for all of the persons who would have voted for the Alliance for Change at this point in time, to go through all of the, I'm sure, the ridicule and all of the other things that you would have faced on the elections trail, to end up at a point where the party that you have labored for has seemingly turned its back on you, and on all of the votes that they amounted a mass in Region 6? What is hurtful?
First of all, it is hurtful because what I expected is not what's happening, right? I expected this, the Alliance for Change, right? I expected Mr. Ramaya and everyone, Mr. Ramjatan, right, to be serious about what they were preaching all along during the campaign trail. Right? I myself, I preached that. And it hurt me that when you have this, Charles Dickens said, great expectations, you know, and then suddenly, you know, the branch is cut and you find yourself on that branch sitting. You understand? And then you fall, and then, you know, your family is looking at you, right? Your family is hurt. You know, every day I look at my family and I see how hurt they are. And my wife kept on telling me, I warned you not to go on the campaign trail, not to go to the AFC, right? That you're not hearing what people are saying, right? You're not hearing, right? There are so many things being said, right, about certain individuals, and you're still not listening. You're going to these people.
Have you ever cried? They say big men don't necessarily cry. Some men are not able to admit that they have. Have you had sleepless nights, and have you cried ever over this entire debacle and the toll it's taken on you?
Of course. In fact, as I'm speaking to you, and you look into my eyes, you're going to see, right? The tears is just there, right? Because I hurt very deeply, good, at what I expected and what I'm getting, right? And what, not only myself, you know, but the entire membership and supporters in Berbice, right? I grieve also for them because, you know, it's not a case where probably they might go on and get fooled again, right? But, you know, the thing about it, I feel hurt for them because they had great expectations as well, right? And I know they are going to be, and they are extremely hurt, right? Because I have met persons in the market this morning, right? And they were empathizing, they were sympathizing, and they were saying that if we had only known this, they would not have done what they did last November.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Youssef, for granting us this interview. It was my pleasure again interviewing you. I think we've ventilated several issues here, at least you have, and this is a third part for all of our viewers of the interviews, well, the second part of all of the interviews that we have been doing, you know, to try to get to the bottom of the matter, to find out exactly what's wrong in the Alliance for Change. And it seems from any independent analysis that we may be seeing lots of infighting, similar to what was the order of the day within the PNCR before they had reached the low point when they regrouped and rebuilt themselves. But thank you very much for sharing all of your perspectives
You're
with
welcome.
me. And we do hope that things get better within the Alliance.
I do hope so.
I'm Michael Young, and this has been an edition of One on One here in Berbice. Thank you very much for joining us. Wow, I think that was very good. I think my phone was ringing.
Okay.